Greetings and welcome to the last review in our Cohiba 2020 video review series. I'm going to smoke what's considered by some the flagship cigar of the Cohiba line, the Cohiba Esplendidos. I'm going to discuss the history of the cigar and its size and a few more things, some interesting things to share with you that I think you'll appreciate. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of this review about the idea of a flagship vitola within a marker. When we think of other markers, they're a bit more obvious. So with Romeo and Julieta, you think the flagship or the one cigar that represents that marker is the Romeo and Julieta Churchill. Maybe Monte Cristo might be the Monte Cristo number 2. But for Cohiba, it could be the Lanceros, it could be the Esplendidos, it could be the Siglo 6, and we'll discuss it more in this video as I smoke this cigar down. I want to thank Trevor again for gifting me this cigar. It's a 2006 Esplendidos, and we're going to talk about the difference between a 2006, almost 15-year-old Esplendidos to a 5-year-old to a one that's 1-year-old. We're going to discuss the differences in the flavours, I suppose. Off the cold draw, I'm getting some beautiful notes of cedar and refined hay, and just gorgeous baking spice notes. This is going to, I hope that this is going to smoke every bit as well as what it is off the cold draw. I'm going to light this up and come back and we'll discuss this cigar further soon. Some common notes that you get from reading reviews on the Esplendidos, they vary a little bit. Some of the notes that stay similar are the grass or hay, the refined hay, coffee notes, honey, citrus. They tend to stay fairly quintessential to what this smokes like. Like what I'm trying to say is you get those notes in quite a few reviews. Some will mention cedar, some will mention earthiness. But what I need to tell you is, on the whole, they mention that the cigar's on the rich side. So the reason for that is because the cigar is basically part of the Linea Classica line, and those cigars are, I guess, stronger in their strength, in terms of their strength. If I go to a Cuban Cigar website, the Classic and the Bahiki range comprise medium to full strength cigars, and the Siglo Maduro range comprise medium strength cigars. I totally agree with this. Even after smoking, this is now the 12th cigar in this video review series, and going across a range of some Siglo cigars and some Linea Classica cigars, you could tell that the Linea Classica ones, the Cohiba Pyramides Extra, this Esplendidos, the Robustos, they're richer. They're richer than the Siglo 3 and the Siglo 4 that I smoked at the beginning of the review series. And I guess even smoking this down now to the first third, even after 14 years, sure, I'm getting that, those milk coffee notes, that refined hay, a little bit of cedar, some honey and citrus. Yeah, definitely a like a sweet orange type citrus, like a Contro type flavour. It's really pleasant. Really nice, complex cigar. But there is a slight richness on the palate there that's different to the Siglo cigars. Definitely. If you're not aware of the history of Cohiba, I'll just read some notes off Cuban Cigar website. In 1963, Cohiba started off as a fuma, which is a cigar rolled by a torcedor for his own use that was offered to Fidel Castro. It immediately became Fidel's favourite. In 1964, a small factory was set up to make these cigars. Production was later moved to the present El Laguido factory. This original cigar was an unnamed Laguido number 1, which ended up becoming Lanceros. And in 1967, 2 additional sizes were added, a Laguido number 2, the Cohiba Coronas Especiales, and a Laguido number 3, which was the smaller Panatellas. The cigar brand remained unnamed until 1966, when it was officially named Cohiba. In 1969, the 3 cigars were given commercial names, and the packaging and the band designs were finalised. Now, Cohiba as a brand, we've mentioned before, was originally given out as diplomatic gifts and was kept for high government officials, I suppose, until the brand was made aware to the public in 1982. And if you want to know what exactly in 1982 made this happen, it was actually the World Cup in the Football World Cup, the Soccer World Cup in Spain that time. You see, because if you look into the history of Cuba, Cuba has a very strong relationship with Spain on account of, I guess, Christopher Columbus coming out to Cuba in 1492. There's hundreds of years of Spanish influence in Cuba up until the very late 19th century, when the Americans and the Spanish had a conflict, and the Americans took over control in the early 20th century until Cuba became a republic. It became an independent country. Now, this relationship with Spain is so strong that Spain remains one of the largest markets in the world for Cuban cigars, believe it or not. So after 1982, Cuba becomes public, and in 1989, this cigar, Esplendidos, was added to the Cohiba line in a classic range. So there were 3 cigars, and I think those 3 cigars mirrored the original 3 from the 60s. So it's like this. Esplendidos was a Churchill size to mirror the Lanceros. The Robustos was a size that, well, it's not exactly, but I guess it mirrored the Coronas Especiales. And the Exclusidos is a small cigar that sort of mirrored the Panatellas. 3 cigars that came out in 1989. And then in the 90s, when Davidoff left, Cohiba really kicked off with the Linea 1942, the Siglo range. And then the 2002, 2003, that Cohiba Siglo 6 really, I think, cemented Cohiba as a premium market. That was a really highly influential cigar, 2003. And then, of course, the Bahigi line came out in 2010, and before that, in 2007, the Maduro line. So there's some information on Cohiba. Now, I don't feel it's taken me that long to just make this wonderful cigar down to here. It's just got some just wonderful baking spice and cedar, honey, and citrus. a bit of milk coffee. It's everything I would wish for in an aged Cohiba Esplendidos. Just make this down a little bit more. That is very, very mild through the retrohale. I'll have to retrohale that a bit more through, the middle third, because that's amongst the mildest that I've sensed through the nose out of all the Cohiba cigars that I've tried in this video review series. It's just very mild cedar and baking spice through the nose. It's very, very mild through the first third. But what I'll do is I'll come back in the middle third and give you some more thoughts on the cigar and discuss the size and retrohale a bit more. I look forward to seeing you then. So I'm just coming into the middle third and I've retrohaled off camera, and I'll just retrohale again. And I'm just getting, before the retrohale was very light in the first third. It was like light cedar and baking spice, but now I'm getting a little bit more of that Cohiba Esplendidos or Linea Classica richness, which is like that milk coffee or that mocha coffee, maybe a touch of earthiness through my nose. But it's not very strong. It's really, really pleasant. Really, really, really nice. So let's discuss a few things about this cigar. Look at the size. It's a Churchill, 47 ring gauge by 178 millimeters, I think, or 7 inches in the imperial scale. When you think Churchill, you think Winston Churchill, you think Romeo Julieta Churchill. It's certainly an iconic cigar in the Churchill Vitola. But did you know there's only 3 regular production Churchills left? This Cohiba Esplendidos, the H. Upmann Sir Winston, and the aforementioned Romeo Julieta Churchill itself. And once upon a time, there was many, many, many more. In fact, across some markers, there were 2 Churchill sizes, and they would be distinguished by having different flavour profiles, different blends. So in the past, H. Upmann had 2, Romeo Julieta had 2. In fact, even in the 80s had 3. Punch had 2. Bolivar had 2. So what happened? Why aren't these Churchills around at the moment? Is what effectively happened, and we've discussed this before in the video review series this year, in the Cohiba video review series. What really happened is Habanos SA needed capital. Altitas SA, which was Spanish owned at the time in 2000, came in and effectively streamlined the Vitolas and looked at the ones that weren't selling well. And it's I regret to say that Churchill's, probably because they take so long to smoke, the double Coronas, these cigars that at the time 20 years ago were considered the large cigars. Today large cigars, we think of large wing gauge cigars. Back then we thought of double Coronas and Churchills as the large cigars, and the cigars that will take 2 hours to smoke or longer. They tended to be for the enthusiasts, I suppose, and sales were always a lot less than other much more popular cigars, such as the Monte Cristo No. 4 and No. 2, for argument's sake, and Cohiba Siglo 6 and cigars like that. So in 2002, Habanos SA started to delete some of those Churchill sizes. So in 2002, we saw 3 deletions: the Bolivar Churchills, the Um, the second Romeo and Julieta cigar, the Prince of Wales, which was a lighter cedar and floral cigar in comparison to the Romeo and Julieta Churchill, which is more cocoa and cherry and stronger. And I think I'll just have to look it up. I think in 2002, the other one that was deleted, I think, was a Punch. The Punch Monarchas was deleted. And then 4 years later, in 2006, another 3 were deleted. The Partagas Churchill Deluxe, the El Rey de Mundo Tanos, and the Sancho Panza Coronas Gigantes. So that was 6 deleted, in a short space of time. But didn't stop there. In 2010, we saw 2 further deletions. The Punch Churchill and the St. Louis Ray Churchill. And in 2012, further 2 deletions, the Hoya de Monterey Churchill and, regrettably for me, the La Gloria Cabana Tanos. Regrettably, I say it's because I've been going through a box last year and I've only got 1 left, and I wish they were around. But I wish the others were around. But sadly, they're not. We've only got, as I mentioned, the H. Upmann Sir Winston, which is a seasonal cigar. It doesn't come out all the time, and in reputation, it's equal in reputation to the Cohiba Esplendidos. It's your higher premium Churchill cigars, and the iconic Romeo and Julieta Churchill. Look, in my opinion, I don't think those Churchills are going anywhere. Those 3 are here to stay. And I must have mentioned that the Monte Cristo and Ajados Churchill, well, the Anahata series was first came out in 2014. I guess technically that's a special release. So when we think of Churchills, that Monte Cristo Anahados, which is a Churchill size, is still around. It's still available. And it came out at a premium price point. I don't think it sells that well. The rumor was when it came out that they were, it was just a rumor that they were, leftover Sancho Panza Coronas Gigantes stock, because at the time it came out in 2014, 2015, they were the box codes were from 07, 08. I don't know how true that is, but I've had Monte Cristo Anahados, and for me they weren't that bad. They weren't as is the word pillaged. They weren't as criticised, or they didn't have as low an opinion as the Romeo and Julieta Pyramides that came out at the same time, and some other Anahados releases. Now we're getting regular production Anahados releases. I guess maybe Habanos Sosai are doing that to restore the reputation of the line. So, recently we've had some Romeo and Julieta Churchills in tubos, and I think we're getting some Trinidad Fundadoras that are coming out in the Anahata line. But anyway, that's another story. Further to those aforementioned Churchills that were deleted, in 2009 the H. Upmann Monarchas was deleted, which always had a fine reputation. In 2014-15 the Quidosay Imperiales, and the most recent one was the Bolivar, I think a Bolivar Gigantes was Coronas Gigantes. I'll just look up should know. Coronas Gigantes, of course, in 2017. And just to let you know, that cigar, when it was deleted, worldwide stocks of that disappeared fairly quickly. I'm talking months. It was not available on our forum very quickly after it was announced that it was deleted in 2017. And worldwide, it was a few months it was gone. So if you ever go into a vendor worldwide and you see a Bolivar Coronas Gigantes or any of those aforementioned deleted Churchills, do yourself a favour and pick them up. If you can. If they're in a reasonable condition in the shop, that is, of course. So coming in the middle third with the cigar, getting that lovely combination of refined hay and mocha coffee or milk coffee notes. It is slightly more, dare we say, earthy. It has that element of richness, but it's very mild. It's very rich in flavours, but very mild, if you can understand that. Certainly has that refined baking spice, honey, and that citrus, that orange citrus that I was talking about before. It's just a tiny bit, so it's a lovely complex cigar. Still very light through the nose. Just wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there and come back in the final third. I'm going to discuss the Esplendidos itself at different age points. I look forward to seeing you soon, I should say. It's coming into the final third, and this has been an incredibly easy cigar to smoke. Just really, really mild, but some nice, rich complexity there. I guess the difference in this Esplendidos in comparison to an Esplendidos that's maybe a year old, or one that you would have got in the last few years, thanks to the generosity of El Prez and the FOH Christmas samplers. Those newer Esplendidos cigars would be much more crispy, stronger. It goes without saying. This is in the mild range because it's almost 15 years old, but they'd be medium. Certainly stronger in mocha coffee notes. There might have been just a hint of butter, whereas this is more like the texture is a soft buttered cream to smoke. It's a lot softer. And some of that sweetness is more easy to work out, to decipher the sweetness when it's this old than when it's newer. Some of those stronger coffee or perhaps earthy flavors are going to be taking over when it's younger. For me personally, if I had a young Esplendidos or one that's this old or one in the 5-year mark, I don't mind at either stage. Either one, young or old, or even in between. I enjoy them for what they are. But to me, I always find that they're a rich, just simply rich in flavours. It's just that the flavours, what's more dominant, changes. In this older cigar, it's more of the the refined hay with the baking spice, the mocha coffee. It's just a lot more softer, but those softer flavours are there. And as I mentioned before, the honey sweetness and that orange citrus just complements a lovely complexity. It's just a wonderful cigar. And it's just really easy for me to smoke, or I should say retrohale into the last third. Now, if you prefer a Linea Classica cigars, like if you're if you commonly have Robustos, I would imagine because of the price point, Esplendidos and the H. Upmann Sir Winston, for that matter, they're more on the higher side in terms of their pricing. So the Esplendidos is not a cigar that you can have that often. The majority of us, and certainly it's true for me, you're going to have it on occasion. So if you have a Linea Classica cigar more often, say, for argument's sake, the Robustos would be one of those cigars. they're going to be more towards that mocha coffee, like I mentioned before, that butter texture, than the grass hay that Cohiba is known for. And again, I've said it, it's going to be more richer. And look, it's true of this Esplendidos too. So when the cigar's about 13, 14, 15 years old, is this, it might have peaked for you, but for me, no. I really like it like this. It's very, very mild, but the flavours are still there, and that's the main thing, because the flavours is what it's about. Construction-wise, this has been fantastic, like every other Cohiba cigar that I've had in this series. I've just got to put that down. Look, I hope that you've enjoyed this video review series. It's been a pleasure to bring it to you. I guess if I was to think about which one particular cigar was my favourite out of the whole 12 to smoke, I would say the very first Cohiba Siglo 3, the 2003 Reserva Pyramides was brilliant, and this Esplendidos. And the reason is because I prefer cigars milder. The flavours I enjoyed in those cigars, but at the end of the day, they were milder to smoke, and maybe not as rich as the other ones. But it goes without saying, I did enjoy the other ones. I was surprised by the double Coronas and the Sublime, how rich they were. But no, I enjoyed them too. But these three, I'd say, would be my favourite. Is this the flagship cigar of the Cohiba line, Esplendidos? Again, I think those sort of questions are, up for conjecture. It's hard to say. Perhaps Esplendidos is the flagship cigar, but then again, the Lanceros was the first one. I guess I've got to think, what's the difference between this Esplendidos and the Lanceros? It's been a little while since I've had one, but I would find the Lanceros is milder than this. If I had an 06 Lanceros, it would be slightly milder than this. And I found that the older Lanceros that I had even more baking spice on it than this does, and slightly less coffee notes or earthy notes. Perhaps you can argue in terms of, and going back to the flagship question, the Siglo 6. When you think of Cohiba, do you think of Siglo 6? Do you think of Esplendidos? Do you think of Lanceros? Depends on the person. Thanks for your joining me on this journey. Again, I've said, look, I really hope that you've enjoyed this video review series. Thank you. It was a pleasure bringing it to you. I've learned a lot myself, and I look forward to the next video review series, probably later on in the year, towards the warmer months. Thankfully, we've had a lovely fall or autumn day here today, and this has just smoked really, really well. This cigar review has gone off for a bit of time, but my apologies for that. But look, thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.